Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Marketing Mix. This week, we are talking about how to create a luxury brand. And let me tell you, it is more than a nice label. So, my guest today is Danni McFarren, who is here with me, and she's from a company called Done and Dusted Design. It's all the D's. And let me tell you, she is the go-to person when you want to talk about how you should develop your luxury product and how you actually turn it into a brand that people will pay that bit much more money for. So, Danni, tell us a little bit about your business and how you got started and who you help.
Thank you, Manel. And I'm not surprised. Done and Dusted Design is that's actually a name that is a phrase that we would say here in Ireland. That's done and dusted. That's sorted. You don't have to worry. And that's actually the main reason why I started the company. Like way back, we just celebrated 10 years in business last month, which I'm really pleased with. But in typical Irish fashion, when I told my dad I'm going to call the company Done and Dusted Design, he said, "That's great, because if it doesn't work out, you can always start a cleaning company as well." Thanks, Dad. Thanks for that. That's great. But yeah, I started about 10 years ago. I'd been living in London, and I wanted to work with clients in a lot closer fashion. I wanted the clients to be really up front and center of that design process, and really kind of close that gap from the London level uh, design capability without the London level price tag of that work. So I really like the idea of creating a digital studio, and you could be based anywhere then, really, and the people that you work with are also based, all around the world. So, right from back then, this is before Zoom, this was Skype, this was the Skype era,
Oh.
and dealing across time zones like that. So even before COVID, we were working with this business model, and yeah, we work with small startups, companies 25, 30 years in business, doing branding, product design, product development, product positioning, luxury packaging, which is very specific, websites, UX, UI, app design, and we've just taken on a videographer. So yeah, I'm very grateful that we're still going. When I started the business, it was economic turmoil, and I was asked, like, "What are you doing? Why are you leaving this really well paid job in London
Yeah.
to go out on your own?" And yeah, that was was a really good question, but thankfully, yeah, it's worked out for the best. So
It's a
that's
risk that's, yeah, definitely for 10 years in, it's definitely worked out. Do pop your questions into the comments for Danni as we go along. Louise, hello and welcome. Hello from Lancashire. What is it like in Lancashire today, Louise? Louise, we've got where I am, it's just grey. I think we're expecting quite a lot of rain today. We had a massive thunderstorm last night. I'm going to get on and ask Danni some questions, but like I said, if you've got your own, pop them in the comments, or if you've got anything resonates with you that Danni is about to say, let us know. So the first thing, Danni, I think I'd want to know is what do people need to think about when they're going to launch their luxury product? How do they turn it into a brand?
Well, I think it starts probably quite before that, and it's really that concept that they have of their product or their service and what that means. I always say to clients, if you can really follow your passion, and it sounds so cliche, and it sounds, you see the memes go around with all that, but it really has to light you up, because you are going to be the brand ambassador. It's going to be you. And so it has to be something that really motivates you. And the idea of this being luxury, well, first of all, it needs to be something that people want and want more of. So it's not just that this is novel or new, but there has to be something genuine about this that is of a different level, that puts you apart. And that can be perhaps the oils or ingredients that you're using, if it's skincare or if it's candles or something like that. Or it could be the process in which you use, for example, aeroponically grown wheatgrass. That's then moved into a luxury. So it's always thinking about something that is very unique about your product or your service. And then I would encourage anyone to work with a designer or design team who already work with that type of that product or that service in terms of creating the right brand name and the right aesthetic for that and packaging specifically for the higher price points. And that's when it gets into that delicate balance of what are you prepared to pay? So positioning your product for price, but also that it covers all your overheads. And a lot of the times when people talk about creating a luxury brand, they focus on the end point. They don't focus on how much does your product actually cost to make? What is that price? Then you have to find, okay, how much is my packaging? Okay, what's my distribution? How much is that? Okay, how do I pay myself? How do I pay my staff? What about my design budget, my marketing, my website? All of that customer service, all of that needs to be in the price of your products. That's what you'll see sometimes when you go into the likes of Selfridges or Harrods and you see a candle. Like if we talk about, Joe Malone and we see these really beautiful candles and think, how is that price justified? And a lot of it is because all of that budget is inherent in that. So the aesthetic is one narrative, that's one part of the story, but a lot of it is getting that price right. And a lot of the early stage, I would always encourage clients, do your research. Look at who else is in the market. Look who's doing really, really well and why. Ask yourself, why are they doing well? What's their price? How are they engaging with their customers? And a lot of that higher price point actually allows for a lot of marketing budget that they can do lots more engagement on socials and they can do point of sale units, all of that sort of stuff if you're taking a product, which allows people to learn about the brand. So you can create a gorgeous item, whatever that might be, but who's going to know about it if you don't have a marketing budget then to tell the world about your fantastic product or service?
It's true. The whole, I always say this, the whole build it and they will come only works for Kevin Costner and only in the movies. So you definitely need to have a money put aside for a marketing budget. And I think a lot of people hear the words marketing budget and they think of it as an expense. And I really would love for small businesses to start looking at marketing as an investment rather than an expense, because that makes it all the more easier to really think about how you can promote your product. And at the end of the day, we're all trying to promote a product, whether it's us and our time or whether it's something physical. So you talked a bit about starting before and doing research. Is that something that you might help a business with? Can you help them come up with that sort of brand story?
100%. And a lot of people, as you and I have talked before, they don't think they have a story. They don't think that there's nothing special about me, Dani. I just have this idea for this product. So I have a questionnaire that I've devised and I've added to throughout the years. And it really starts to get those juices flowing and they start to go, okay, I've never been asked that before. That's interesting. And some questions can make them feel quite uncomfortable in terms of, what threats do you see coming forward with this brand or this product, or what are you concerned about? So after they go through the questionnaire, I would sit with them and we would have a very close one-to-one, either online or we'll have it in a space in their office or something like that. But it has to be a very trusted environment. It's somewhere that they can really open up, because a lot of what I do is working with people just on an energetic level as well. And a lot of what people tell you, it's much about what they don't say as much as what they do say. And you start to understand, okay, tell me why you're sitting in front of me with this amazing idea for a cosmetics brand, which one of my clients came to me and she wanted to position it into that sort of higher price point. And actually sitting down and talking to me, and I said, well, what got you into this? And she says, do you know what, Dani? No one's actually asked me. It was when I was a girl, I used to watch my granny, growing up, putting on her makeup and all that really beautiful gold makeup cases that all sat out. And the way she did it was just this ritual. And I said, I love that. I really love, let's bring that in. And I said, what was your granny's name? Oh, it was Tilly. And I thought, oh my goodness, there we go. There's the brand. So it became then Tilly Lash, Tilly Beauty. And I designed up the brand to echo that sort of Art Deco, the gold, and then that beautiful sort of green to blue, that gradient, so which was really, of that era, that's in 1940s. And it just, when you see it, on the shelf compared to all of the other. It just dances. And we did like a step repeat of her icon. You just can't see anything else when you go into the stores. It's stunning. But that came from a story. And really all I do, or anybody in my position does, is really translate that story into the language of design, and the language, essentially what you just said, sales. It's sales and marketing for a reason. You are selling your product, but it's telling the story and the narrative and all of those words to come out from that. So a lot of the times it's doing that early work of listening to your client, of understanding, okay, tell me not just about the product, but tell me about you. Tell me about what motivates you. Quite often I'll send through a Pinterest board, and I'd say, put a whole load of stuff in there that you like. And it might not have to do with your particular industry. It could be a logo for another company, or it could be a color scheme that you've seen that you like. But let me understand what you feel is beautiful. Mm-hmm. What do you feel this should connect with? And then you start to understand the client's point of view. The bit that I do then is translate that into something that is actually sellable and marketable, because I've done it for so long. I've learned from the best. So it's about me translating that into, okay, I know how to make this sell. So your packaging needs to look like this. Your brand needs to look like this. Your website needs to operate like this. Your socials need to engage like that. That's almost like the easy part. The story, the unique part that clients sort of think that, oh, that's irrelevant. No, that's key. That is that is. So then when it comes to telling your story, you light up when you talk about, this is my candle, this is my baby, this is, I come from this small village in Scotland, and I went back and I looked through the oils that were of local there, and I brought that into my product. And all of a sudden people are listening to you, because your story is what lights them up. It's that connection. I say this all the time. People don't buy products or services, they buy emotion. Herbal Essence shampoo has made a fortune out of that experience. So that's what people buy. And that's what people want. They want to feel the way you're telling them they want to feel. So that's marketing is getting them to come back over and over and over again.
Yeah. So one interesting thing that we talked about, which makes me feel like you're sort of, well, I know that you've been called the brand whisperer, and it's kind of, you help them with their brand, but it's a bit more than that. And one of the things that we talked about was how you've helped people get stocked in places like Harrods and Selfridges, and how you've helped them to like create a pitch deck that has got them there. So can you tell us a bit about that, how, like, the process of how you approach that?
Well, a lot of the times it's mindset, right? It's mindset that they think at that point, who am I to go and pitch to these people? Who am I? I've just got this one product or a small range. And a lot of it is the self-belief. And I do a lot of work in energetics. And a lot of it is even going back to a client and saying, can I just reflect back to some of the language that you've said and talked about your business, and doing that sort of due diligence work with them. So then when it comes to actually talking about it, everything is almost inherently a sale, but they just don't realize it, because it's a lot more positive, and it's a lot more, well, let me tell you, let me see this opportunity. So once they get used to presenting in that manner, we usually get that trade deck. That is your key. If you've been told you've got 15 minutes, you've got 8 tops. If you've told, you've got 5 minutes, you've got 3. So a lot of it is making sure that whenever you are presenting and when you've got that time, that your messaging is really on point, really at the start. So whenever we put together the trade deck, I know that's like an American way of phrasing it, or slides, whatever you want to call it. If you've done it in PowerPoint or Keynote, whatever it is, it can be anything. A lot of clients start from, here's an introduction slide, here's the market, here's the gap that I've seen, and this is where I am, and this is my benefit to you. And you're already preaching to the converted. You're already telling the person you're presenting to about their market. So you need to do it the opposite way around. You need to have an opener, but in slides 2 and 3, that has to be your absolute sell. This is who I am, this is what we do, and this is why you need us. Mm-hmm. Then you clarify that message by backing up, because you've already got them hooked. You've got them interested. Oh, okay, I want to know more about this. So the rest of the deck needs to almost then support what you're saying. It's almost like a thesis that you might write, but that message needs to be up front, and you have to know your numbers. You got to know. And I'm not meaning you need to be an accountant or anything like that, but you got to have that basic understanding of how much does the product cost?
Mhm.
What's my overheads? What do I see roughly as a turnover? Where do I see this going? And you've got to have product development. You've got to be able to talk about, okay, future lines. What else is coming in the next 6 months? What's happening in the next year? So all of that goes into making you very believable, very trustworthy, that you've looked through your packaging, it's sustainable, it's organic, if that's your thing or whatever. But quite often, a lot of the luxury brands are looking for vegan. They're looking for organic stamps. They're looking for soil association stamps, all of that credibility. That's the kind of thing that is already there, expecting you to have. So what we don't want is for you to be presenting to them and then saying, well, your product. A lot of research before that of what do these people actually require, and then making sure that all those messages are really, really finely honed.
Amazing. God, I mean, when people think about brand, it invariably comes down to, what does my logo look like? What do my colours look like? I mean, that's just an exercise in knowing.
The thing that I would say quite a lot, that your brand is not what you say it is. It is what your customers say. It is the conversation about you when you're not in the room. So how do you create an experience that when you're not in the room, other people are saying, oh my goodness, this product, this service was fantastic. Let me tell you about it. Oh my goodness, that's great. I had a brilliant sales call with this person. Or if it's coaching, it could be, she turned my life around, or he made me think about things in a different way. It's always how you made that person feel. And even though it's a logo or a pretty picture, whatever that is, it's still about that brand experience.
Yeah.
And that's the bit that I think a lot of times clients forget about, because as you say, they might focus on what color should my logo be. Really, that is irrelevant, because your product or your service should be absolutely beautiful, and that will do its talking itself. So then you can fine tune the rest to make sure it's on point.
So, I mean, I know you've worked with big business and small business. Is there a difference of approach to getting that brand story for each one, or was it much of a muchness?
The smaller businesses, it's a lot more intimate, and I think people are a lot more ready to tell their story, and they're able to be very open because they've no real risks to take. It's a lot harder for a larger company than to get on board. What we try to do is do a discovery workshop, and we would have basically, you need to get buy-in from a lot of the key stakeholders. So you need somebody of C-level, you need somebody in your management, you need somebody who is literally on reception, and you need them around that table and talking a very, very open, honest dialogue about brand, about what's working, about what's not working. And a lot of those workshops end up it's so funny, because you are like, I always open with the same sort of question that I would ask to anybody in the company. But whenever somebody lower down and I ask the CEO, do you like your job? I mean, that's a little bit disarming, because it's like, well, I run the company, I said, but what is it you like? What is it you like about coming to work? And then when I ask that question to other members of staff, like, well, some days I like coming to work, some days I don't, and then it gets everybody around the table talking, okay, well, what is it that we do? Why do we come to work? Why do we do this? And a lot of the times, the communication from top level doesn't really filter down. So a lot of it is doing the branding, and for talk's sake, that could be like, say, a rebrand of a large company. A lot of that work then after that is just simply communicating that to the rest of the staff, and allowing people to be feeling very involved in that process. And I would say intrinsic, because if you think about it, if they're going home, if they're talking to friends and family at the supermarket, in the pub, or whatever, again, that's your brand experience. How have I made my staff feel? How do these people represent the brand outside of the office? And you'd like to think that's favorable. It is doable. Just with a larger company, it sort of takes a little bit more time. The other side of that is a larger company will have a bigger marketing budget, so they will be able to communicate that on a much larger scale. Which is advantageous, but also it's a slower vehicle to turn.
And so, any last tips, like if people are wanting, even if not a luxury product, but like just generally around your brand? Are there any last tips that you have for us?
I'd say don't be afraid to take advice. You know, you can have your favorite color in the world, and that can be beautiful. But if that's not right for your market, don't be afraid to go, okay, that's interesting. I'm not really getting good traction with that. You know, don't be afraid to take your own self and your own ego out in order for you to get a better product or service. You know, if you're getting the same comments made over and over,
Yeah.
you should be listening to that.
Yeah.
And you know, so a lot of the times it's like, no, this is my baby. I'm very precious with this. I want to, I want to own it, and that's great. But if you're not getting as many sales as what you think, and you think, oh, maybe I should listen to this, and maybe I should, go back. Don't be afraid to make amends, or even engage with your customers and say, what can we do better? What would you do? Or we're thinking about this change. How do you feel about that? You'll learn very quick. What you should and shouldn't do. And just say with everything, just try to do everything as best you can. Try not to cut corners, especially in a luxury market. You get seen, a mile off. Know your numbers, but know your ingredients, know your supply chain. Don't be trying to scrimp, on things like packaging, because that is part of your brand experience.
Yeah.
So don't be going for the cheaper label because you think, oh, I can just afford that. Well, let's look at maybe some cost savings elsewhere to make sure the packaging is really beautiful and really stand out, because that's your first experience.
Yeah.
It's going to be, oh, wow, that's stunning. So what you don't want is something falling apart, or, maybe something inside the package is stained it or something like that. So it doesn't come overnight. It is a process. And so it's not to be expected to know everything and go, oh, yes, this is a journey. So like I said at the start, you got to love what you do. There's got to be something that lights you up. Otherwise, in a fortnight, you'd be like, oh, no. What have I done?
Brilliant. Well, I do encourage you to check out Dani's website. I'm just posting it in the comments there. And talking about packaging, there is some beautiful packaging on that website. It's just shows off some of the work that she's done with her clients. So thank you for joining me today, Dani. That was lovely. It was a really useful but whistle-stop tour. If you want to know more of Dani's advice, you can go and read her interview on my blog. There's a little bit more expansion on there. And next time, in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to be talking about welcome emails, a little bit of a complete different topic. So welcome emails and how you can use them to warm up your audience so that they want to buy from you. So join me on my own in 2 weeks' time. But, take care, have a good week. And thank you, Dani, even, for joining me today. And I will talk to you guys in 2 weeks' time. Take care. Bye.